going on? My name is Colter We're here in Helena, Montana. This is my tiny home right here. Welcome to the inside of the tiny home, guys. First off, I mean, my favorite thing would probably be the beetle kill blue pine wood. It encompasses the entire interior, gives it a warm feel, cabin-y type of feel, which is what I wanted. We just kind of like that all wood vibe, so I went with that. Turned out really good. I did treat the wood with polyurethane just to keep it strong and keep things sealed up real nice. Going into the kitchen here, I mean, I opted for the windows up high to let light in. I really like that white light coming in all day. Coming down here, I built this little shelf and just put some creative touches on it. Just didn't want anything obtrusive, just simple to put a few things on. Kind of built this fun little thing for the paper towels that hangs there, and then got my air fryer, which I feel like for tiny home living, this thing has been a savior. I don't have to have a microwave, which is awesome, and I don't have to have an oven. Just got one of these and I can cook a lot of stuff, so I do love that. I wanted a big sink just because I don't like being crammed when I'm doing dishes. I actually don't mind doing dishes, but I don't like doing them in a tiny sink. It wasn't to leave a bunch of dishes, it was just to have room to do it. This one is a big one. I probably could have gone down just a touch, but I do enjoy it. Slightly limited on counter space. I've got this space right here, which is where I do all of my chopping and stuff. Eventually, I am gonna build a fold out extension right here, so I will have all this just to increase the counter space though. With the butcher block, that was an upgrade. I did pay a little extra for that, and it did come raw, so I did treat that to kind of give it a little bit more of a shine and some color to it. You know, for counter space, I did want to add, there is this whole other chunk over here, which I chose to put a dish rack. You could also use that for cutting if you didn't want to do that kind of setup. That's just what I chose to do, so. The cabinets were really awesome. This was my first experience ever painting cabinets, and I love how they turned out. So, and these little drawers are just kind of organizers. I've got, you know, little square organizers in here for stuff, and this side is the silverware. Simple little drawers. Underneath, I've got the 40-gallon water tank under there, and all that water is used for washing and showering. I do have a composting toilet, so I don't need water for that. So I do not have a black water tank on board. I also do not have a gray water tank, actually. Where I'm located, I'm able to run the gray water out onto the ground. I will be getting a small portable tank to catch that as I move. And that will probably be like a 20 or 30 gallon tank that I will have to then, you know, empty regularly. So with 40 gallons of fresh water, that's been really good for me. It goes 3 or 4, 5 days at the most, depending on how you use it, how frugal you are. I luckily do have access to a hydrant and a hose, and so I can hook that up, and that's obviously full water all the time, or I can refill whenever I want. But if you were to just, you know, fill the tank and go out on your own and you really wanted to make it last as long as possible, I'd say probably 5 days max. I actually do have plans to put a cupboard in this corner, but I haven't yet because I just haven't needed it. And I do enjoy the headspace, so I'm kind of just feeling it out still. One thing I've really loved is, you know, the big sink, but also the kind of high arching faucet with the extension on it and the different modes. That was a little bit of an upgrade too, and I feel like I'm glad that I went with that. It just gives you plenty of space to do what you need, and so you're already in a small space, and I really didn't want to be fighting the sink and stuff either, so I'm happy I went with that. I did want to touch on just this little spice rack. I went out to the back of the shop and just found a pallet laying on the ground, right, and I just cut it up and made that. It cost me nothing to do that, and I was looking online, and you know, spice racks are anywhere from $5 to $30, $60, depending on what you want to do, you know, but when it comes to cost for stuff like that, that was just a little hack, you know, just find what you can make it work, looks cool, fits with the theme, and so I tried to do that kind of thing as much as I can in here. So bringing it over to this side of the kitchen, got the refrigerator right here, kind of under the stairs, and this was a bit of a modification here to the original blueprint. The reason for that change is I wanted to go with the medium-sized fridge instead of the small dorm-sized fridge. I just liked the size, and it gave me a decent-sized freezer for stuff, and it's a little bit bigger of a main area. For me personally, it was the right size, the right choice. It did limit a little bit of space as you come in the door, but all in all, nothing really changed, and so I don't mind having that modification. And in terms of longevity too, I can put just enough stuff in there to last several weeks, you know. I haven't done much with this space, but it's essentially just a kind of a pantry space right now. Got a little bit of a storage in here. I would like to do like actual built-in drawers probably in there at some point, but it's kind of a handy space going back in there too. Lots of random storage. Right here is my coffee station for the morning. Just kind of try to keep it simple, just coffee cups, and some supplements and stuff like that. A big part of it for me was financial. I noticed that there was an opportunity to maybe save some money by going this route. And for me, my long-term goal was to own land and a house, which is very common. And I started to think like, well, okay, the different routes to get there. And the kind of the traditional route is just to keep renting and then eventually buy with a spouse or whatever, or without, but just, you know, rent until you get there. What started to emerge is this tiny home life or this van life where you could, instead of renting, you're actually buying an asset, but essentially doing the same thing. It's what your living situation. I realized I can buy this asset for pretty cheap, stop giving away that rent money and have it go towards an asset that, one, I will be able to pay off pretty quick compared to a normal house because it's way less money. So get that paid off, then it's yours, and then now you can start saving for a piece of land. So then you can take your asset, which you're able to live in, park it on your land now, live like that for however long you want, because now you own your land, you're happy, you're where you want to be, and you have something to live in. It's not, and then if a house is your goal, then now at that point, you pay off the land or whatever, you get into a financial situation where then you can start building the house on that land while you're living in your tiny home. You get the house built, then you can move into the house, and then you still have the tiny home that you could Airbnb out or you could sell. It's already paid off. I mean, it's an asset. So it's just like, I realized there was all this potential there to still achieve a house with land, but actually end up with an asset that could still make money, like I said, through Airbnb or something like that later on, that you got for cheap anyway. And it made a lot of sense to me. So we're in the bathroom here now. As you can see, the ceiling is down a little bit more in the bathroom, but it's right about 6 foot, which is just enough for me. An interesting kind of factor in addition that occurs in the bathroom is this wall coming down right here. The purpose of that was because we added in a walkway in the loft, and so this is the walkway coming down here. With the walkway, it gives you obviously almost 2 more feet of headspace for walking up in the loft where the bed is. For me, I still can't stand all the way up, but it made it so instead of being on my hands and knees or really crouched over, I could actually almost down all the way up, so then I can get dressed, I can do stuff up there a lot easier. Makes being up there a lot easier, and it didn't really hinder me being in the bathroom too much, so it was kind of a win-win. I opted for a small washer and dryer in here. I knew, you know, for me, I was going to be living in here full time, you know, and so just a washer and dryer made sense, but I didn't want a full size. It was just going to be too much for me. After looking, I found these and they're perfect. I mean, they're small, compact. They do the job. Really, the only thing is you got to do a little bit more loads, right? But as long as you can accept that, kind of just is what it is. Works great. Another feature that just fit in with this design over here on this side was to put my closet right here. I originally did have a closet built in the loft, but you kind of got to crawl around to get into it. And I realized after I got the home that I didn't necessarily want to crawl to get to my clothes every time. And I had this space open. And so I moved it here, and I'm probably going to upgrade it and modify it at some point, but I put a rod in, and it's just perfect. It's nice, compact, tucked in the corner, got all my clothes here. It's a ton of space. I had this wall here after we decided on the walkway, and didn't really know what to do with it. It was kind of just, you know, popping out. And then I realized like, oh, this would be a great spot for kind of like a vision wall type of thing. So that's sort of what I'm starting to do with that. And I thought that was just kind of a cool add-in, cool addition to the tiny home and just the way of life, you know, just have a place, have my desk, but have, you know, a place where you can kind of just put stuff up that you got your vision on. And so that's kind of what that is. I thought that was kind of cool for me. So, and then kind of moving to the other side of the bathroom is the shower. And this is one of my favorite parts of the tiny home. It's completely made out of cedar, and so it's got a real beautiful look to it. So on the faucet itself there, I did add in it's a water filtration system. system. You can put them on your faucets, any kind of faucet. They just screw on and it just filters that water for you. I've always kind of done that, but for moving into the tiny home, that made a lot of sense to me. When I was going to be using water from hydrants and stuff and multiple sources, I was like, I would like to filter it one more time before it actually hits my skin. So then moving to the back part of the shower, back in here, I've got my composting toilet, and I went with Nature's Head composting toilet. I didn't want to deal with black water and black tank on board or anything like that. It was pretty big for me, so it was just kind of a no-brainer going with the composting toilet. I love it. It's different, so you just got to get used to that, but I love it. It's easy to clean. Once you get over, you know, just the change, it's easy to clean. It's easy to live with. With just me here, I only have to clean it like once every month. I prefer coconut core. Peat moss is also a good option for that. So kind of moving behind me here is the bathroom vanity. I did opt for a vanity that had a cupboard beneath for storage. And one thing to touch on, which you can easily see here, is that throughout the entire place, I did do black accents with pretty much everything to try to get that cohesiveness. So you see kind of black accents all over the place. I went simple, just little mirror hanging here, little organizers, hooks for towels and stuff. And I just tried to keep it simple back here. So welcome to the loft. This is obviously where I sleep. I chose to do some art on this wall. I've got like 3 little pieces here and then the Himalayan salt lamp. Just kind of all together, I liked waking up and looking at like some art and kind of just starting off with a little bit of a creative view and mindset. So that's why I like having some art right here. And then I also am sitting in the walkway right now. So that's the walkway and how it looks from up here. And then of course got to have Mac Miller picture, right? Over here, I opted for this is just a regular mattress. I did consider going with like 8 or 10 inch memory foam and some different options like that, but I did already have this mattress, and when I ran the dimensions, it was going to fit fine. It's thick, you know, maybe a little thicker than what I would have originally wanted, but it works fine and it's okay. And I'm still able to sit on my bed with my head not hitting the ceiling, which is one of the main things I wanted. If this bed was any taller, I wouldn't be able to do that. So that was one thing I wanted to make sure, just for reading and stuff like that, so you can sit up in your bed comfortably. Getting up and, you know, in the middle of the night and rolling around, I have enough space where I never hit my head or anything like that on the ceiling. It's just right. And you know, the lowest part is obviously over in this far corner, and for me, I don't find myself way over there anyway very often. If I had a spouse or somebody staying with me, maybe they would notice that a little bit more, but I do think that it's enough space that it hasn't shown to be a problem at all. Now, my little girl Razi, she's one of my best friends, so she gets her spot right at the end of the bed here, and I kind of made sure that her bed was going to fit right there and everything. And it was actually the reason why I stopped the closet right there instead of bringing it all the way. It was 2 reasons really. One, because I knew her bed was going to fit right there, and then 2, I thought it was cool to be able to look out a little bit, but not through the whole way, but be able to look out and see the rest of the tiny home. I love that design. But yeah, no, she'll hop right up in here and just go right to bed. And she always, you know, when I'm not in here and she's in here, she'll hop on the bed, but she goes on her bed when it's nighttime. So it works great for me and her. Perfect system. The original closet that I had built for clothes and stuff, I do have right here. It's functional. The only thing is I have to kind of crawl into it. And once I got the house, I realized that wasn't, you know, the most comfortable thing for me. So I've opted to turn it more into storage for bedding and pillows, and there's a couple drawers. So just some stuff I really don't use. I actually have like wool socks, for instance, in one of the drawers right now because it's like summer and I'm just not using them, but I will at some point. There's a cubby space where I have receipts and stuff like that, and important documents and, you know, things of that nature. I kind of keep in this area now. One little last thing to add is the texture along the wall. You can tell that's obviously different from the beetle kill wood, and that was purely just accent. It's vinyl paper or whatever it's called. It's just stuck on there, but I love the design and the look of it, and I thought it went with everything in here really nice. And originally my thought was to have this vinyl paper match up here and go in the bathroom, but I did change that, so it's just up here now. Something that was really big for me when I was in the design phase of this house is I redid my plans a lot, and I made lists often of all the things I was going to be doing in the house, and things that I loved, things that I knew I was going to add later or that I was going to get rid of at some point. I made lists of all that stuff so that I knew going into it, like, this is what's going to happen. you know, at these certain times and stuff. And with such a limited space, for me, I felt like I needed to have all that dialed. Otherwise, it was going to be hard to keep things organized or to like add things and remove things without it having being like kind of a mess. It is kind of hard to actually sit down and make the list, but I know that if I hadn't, I would have missed one or two things, you know, and if I hadn't redone the list several times, I would have continued to miss one or two things. And next thing you know, you miss 5 or 10 things, and then you have the house and yeah, 5 or 10 things that you're just like, dang it, you know. So for me, it's big to take that time, just like you would with a real house. I think for me, I tried to act like this was a regular full-size brick and mortar house. Like I approached it with that level of, you know, focus on the detail. So this is the living room area. I looked into bench style sofas and stuff and futons and all of that, and I just couldn't quite find the right dimensions for what I was looking for in here. And then found these bean bags. They were more on the cheaper end of things anyway, and they kind of sat lower to the ground, which I realized was gonna look good in here and fit with the way the TV ended up being kind of low on the wall over here. I didn't mind being a little lower to the ground. And so since I was having a hard time finding a different kind of sofa for this area, I consider either building something or going with this for now. And so I just decided to do this for kind of the fun, chill vibe for now. And they got little massagers in them and stuff, so it's just kind of fun. So next is the Cubic Mini. I mean, this thing is pretty well known. I love it. Being up in the Northwest in Montana, it obviously gets cold and we have harsh winters. And so I was like, I gotta have a fireplace. So I went with that one. It was an option that was offered through the company. So I upgraded to that, and I'm extremely happy I did. It keeps the place extremely warm in the winter. I was very pleased with it. I personally have been burning more of the compact sawdust chunks, and that works great for this. They smolder a little longer and provide heat for a long time. A little bit more cleanup and debris from it, but it's not bad. All in all, I think the trade-off was fine, and I'm really enjoying that. I did have them build a little cubby underneath to store wood and stuff. Just, you know, guitar and a little bit of art and the surfboard, just some hobby stuff. So this is my office area. So when I got the place, one of the first things I did was put in the desk with the 2 shelves. They do fold down flat if I want it out of the way, and or if I just want to have one down or the other down for whatever purposes, which is kind of cool because this can be more like a table when it's on its own, and this can be more of like almost like a bar top kind of thing. I do like to mess around with recording music and stuff. I do have a keyboard that I will put on here from time to time. Just the functionality of that I really wanted, and I do love how that's turned out. I even, you know, went as far as to design, like I knew I wanted these hooks here, and I knew I was gonna hang my backpack here, and I knew it was gonna be just enough space for the laptop. I kind of measured all that stuff out, and that's why it fits the way it does. And I felt like with, you know, moving into the tiny home, you have the opportunity to do that kind of stuff. It's such a small area, you have the time to kind of inch those things out. This hook system was really awesome. I don't see this very often, but it works really great for me. And here is the hooks actually will slide along that railing instead of being stationary. So then I could kind of like put them to fit with what coats I have up for that season, because I kind of rotate coats depending on the season. And I love the functionality of that, you know, and just the versatility of the moving hooks and the folding decks, all that stuff. You got different options to do things, and I think, you know, in a tiny home, you know, it gives you an opportunity to do that kind of stuff in here. So up above me here is my loft, my storage loft. This was an add-on, but just with my lifestyle, I have a lot of gear, skiing and hunting and bow hunting and stuff like that. So I had a bunch of gear, and I knew I wanted to put that somewhere. So I went ahead and had them add this in. It's actually bigger than it looks. You could have 2 people sleep up there, or 1 very comfortably. Obviously, I've got no ladders up right now, but there is a ladder that came with the tiny home that I can set up here and to get up there. I really love that. I think in the tiny home, I mean, if you can have an extra storage loft like that, it really goes a long ways. Next to the office space here, they're little energy efficient wall heaters, and they're really awesome. Actually, they do a really good job. Obviously, when it's really cold out, I do bump up to the Cubic Mini to get that real good heat, but when you just kind of need that in-between heat and you don't really want to start a fire or anything like that, I've got 2 of these, one down here and one in the loft, and it works great with the fan on. It cycles in here very well and can keep the place at a good temperature. And then kind of coming around the corner here past the front door, I did opt to put the TV here. It is a little low and it is a little big. I had this TV before I moved in here. Otherwise I probably would have maybe downgraded. And the other part to it is I actually originally planned on putting it up here on a bigger mount that would drop it down. Still might do that, but what I concluded is with the low beanbag chairs, if I had the TV up too high, my neck would be kind of kinked trying to watch it. And so I opted to put it down here on just a stationary stand so that I could look at it much easier. And I may downgrade the size at some point, but it actually hasn't really gotten in the way too much. And I even have a dog, and we go up and down the stairs, and it doesn't seem to get bumped, even though it looks like it kind of could. I think it's tucked up just enough. I don't watch TV hardly ever, actually. I'm somebody who just loves to be outside. I've got all kinds of hobbies, so I'm always outside doing stuff or working. Late at night, I might throw something on. I do like to, you know, watch YouTube videos and stuff like that from time to time, and so I'll throw something like that on, or some music. I do like watching Spotify through the TV and using the soundbar and stuff. But all in all, no, I'm not a TV watcher, and I think that probably feeds into why I went tiny in the first place. That kind of stuff isn't too important to me. When it comes to taking the leap, I think first and foremost, like, I would just say, you just do it. Just gotta do it at some point. Eventually I just hit a point where I just told myself, you gotta jump in and do it if you're gonna continue to think about it this much. As soon as that thought hit me of like, are you gonna keep thinking about this and not do it, or are you gonna think about it and actually do it, you know? And so I guess I would say, think about it until you get to that point where you've pretty much thought it all out and there's nothing really left, and you got to make a yes or no decision on it. Your gut will kind of tell you at that point, I believe. I think, you know, I just believe in that, where you think about all the possible outcomes and scenarios and things with it. You get to that point, your gut will be like, yeah, that's for us, or no, that's not for us. And my advice would be to listen to what your gut says at that point. For me, it was a yes, so. With that, I just want to say thank you guys for coming and taking a look at my tiny home. I enjoyed having you guys here. You can find me on Instagram at BigSkyTiny. Feel free to reach out with any questions or any inspiration ideas, and I would love to share those ideas with you guys. So thank you so much.